And hello. Welcome to the Great Movies Podcast. I am your co-host. My name's Caleb.
And I'm Noah.
So we talk about everything, everything movie, everything, anything movie related. And today we want to talk about one of the, I think, kind of an underappreciated aspect of film, which is the soundtrack and the composer who is behind the soundtrack. Well, there's obviously quite a lot of people behind that because you got the audio mixers and the orchestras and all whatever. But there's the guy, there's the man behind the curtain who's running the thing. And so today we're going to talk about composers. And are you?
I'm so excited. Movie music is some of my favorite just things to listen to when I'm not watching movies. Like I have whole playlists of movie music because it's so iconic. And a lot of times, and we talked about this in our last pod with Superman, the music becomes kind of synonymous with the movie. Like you can't have one without the other. And I think that dynamic is so cool. Like classic Superman movie with John Williams' score. If you take that score out, that movie's not that good. Like it's a good movie, but it's not a bad movie, but if you take that score out, I don't think it's as iconic. I don't think Star Wars is as iconic without dum 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 dum. And that's so I'm so excited to talk about this. This is awesome.
Yeah. It was. I tell you what, this was. Well, first before I get into that, I just had such a great time putting the list together because like you, I have lots of different soundtrack on my computer actually. So when I go to work on a new story, for those that don't know, I'm also a writer, but I like to match sort of thematically sometimes when I need like a burst. So if I'm writing like a chase scene, maybe I'll have like some soundtrack from an action movie where they're just like it. The music really pushes the story forward. And so when I was coming up with like my list, my notebook looks like a conspiracy theorist wrote it because there's just lines everywhere. Just because there's, at first I was thinking, okay, what movies do I instantly think of for ones are inspiring. And sometimes it's sort of an interesting mix because there's almost like there's a difference between having like one good intro bit of music versus like an entire soundtrack full of amazing movements. And so I think that is really what separates like the top composers from the rest, because I think most people that can do that write music, they can come up with a 2-minute bit for the beginning of the movie, but can they do that throughout the whole film? That's a whole different thing.
And then also continuing through their whole filmography. If you look at a lot of composers for film scores, there's a distinct, that's John Williams. That's this guy. That's this guy. And I just mentioned John Williams because I don't want to necessarily bring up the people that we might bring up in a couple minutes.
Well, I don't think it's going to be a big secret that John Williams
which is why I'm going with him, because just with pop culture, he's so synonymous with a lot of movies, and we'll talk about him later. But he's got themes that you recognize as John Williams, not just Star Wars, not just Superman, not just his other, but there's that's a John Williams score, because you can hear his characteristic, and you can hear that with a lot of other composers that we might mention coming up. There's like a signature that's unique to them, but they also bring a new twist to every movie they do, and so that's cool too.
Yeah. So for the audience, please like and subscribe if you can, because
yes, we forgot to mention that last episode.
Yeah, we forgot that last time. No, because we're starting out and we're just sort of getting the flow of everything and getting the setup and everything, but so we're starting from scratch, from zero, from nothing. So basically anything is growth from
any
this.
helps, any subscription helps.
Yeah, and and the thing is, we're gonna do really consistent with putting out our podcasts, and but we're not gonna overwhelm. So if you have you on notices, some people they're putting stuff out so often, you're like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. We're not gonna bombard anyone.
Always weekly uploads with the occasional emergency pod that we might do here and there, and then maybe some shorts. We might clip up a couple of things, but it won't be that much content, so you won't feel bombarded.
And it'll be really interesting because it's going to be across a lot of different types of media. So, I don't know where you're going to hear this, or maybe you're like a watcher person. Like I like watching podcasts more than I like listening necessarily because I like the facial expressions and all that kind of stuff. But some people hey, they're just like, they're on a commute and they want to listen, they want to and that's cool too, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So what I want to do is let's start with, let's do a top five composers, but like I would like to do some honorable mentions first.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. So like we have not discussed, for you guys out there, we have not discussed who's on our list and all that kind of stuff. So I have no idea. But I'm going to put as I almost said dark horse, but like as a runner up, you could say Thomas Newman.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And I put him on there because he's like a guy who has been around forever, but I think his most incredible soundtrack, what he did the soundtrack for The Shawshank Redemption.
Yes. I actually have him on my top list, so.
On your top five list?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, well
So,
then we won't talk
so
about
we
him
can
too
talk
much
about
yet.
him later, and then we'll just
Yeah.
keep whatever honorable mentions you have.
Yeah. Well, I'll just throw a couple. You do one next, but I have a couple more, and then we'll maybe do some honorable mention at the end too.
Yeah. So sticking with the Newman theme, I'm gonna throw out Randy Newman.
Also on my honorable mention.
Yeah, Randy Newman. A lot of people think of him of just the monk theme song. It's a jungle out there, like just. But he's not just a singer songwriter, but he's also a composer. And
Yep.
Rest in peace. He passed away yesterday, Robert Redford. But he did the score for The Natural.
Well, yeah, that's on my sort of like list of honorable mentions for top film scores of all time. Is The Natural.
And then he also did the Toy Story movies and the Monsters Inc. movies and the Bugs Life
And Awakenings with Robin Williams.
Awakenings. Yes, with Robin Williams. So his filmography is not as wide as some of the other composers, so I didn't have him on my top, but I really wanted to throw that out there because he has put together some really beautiful pieces.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about both those Newman brothers, when I was doing a little research, and that was one of the fun things about this was that like, because I know like the movies I like, but then once you do a little bit of a deep dive into some of the guys, like I didn't realize like I don't know if they're all siblings, but they're all related, and there's like 5 or 6 or 7 like composers in their family.
Okay.
Yeah, so if everyone's interested, go to one of those brothers, the Thomas Newman or Randy Newman, and look to see the siblings. And if you click on them, there's like all kinds of it was like too big of a deep dive for me to get too far into, but it was I didn't realize that. So it's definitely a family of musicians for sure.
And just so people know, Paul Newman is not related to them.
Right. Yes.
They do not have a holding on the salad.
And neither is Newman from the Seinfeld show.
There you go.
Another, let's see. This is a guy who he's not in my top 5. He has done some amazing work composing wise, but so he's in that second tier, and that is Michael Kamen.
Okay. I don't know if I know that name, but I probably know his scores.
He was the composer for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting with him because he actually died fairly young, and so I don't know what he would have continued to do, but he was the composer behind the Die Hard movies, the Lethal Weapon movies, Highlander, and he composed the movie, one of your favorites, What Dreams May Come.
Ah, got you.
And I think, and this almost put him in my top 5. He was a composer for Band of Brothers, which is, it's not quite enough to, it's not quite enough to put him in the top 5, but it's just like that is one of the, I think, arguably the best miniseries of all time, and like a really haunting, beautiful score.
No, it's great, and I think with Band of Brothers, it does the job that I think John Williams does with Saving Private Ryan, where it brings out the emotion of every single scene in a battle.
Yeah.
That's not just the visual. Like it takes the visual and amplifies the visual. Like you're seeing these guys getting shot, things getting blown up, but you're also feeling the feeling because of the music. And it's so weird, just on the subject of music, there's no music in real life. Like you're listening to music, but I'm saying your life is not scored.
Well, unless
You
I'm
don't
whistling like the Hobbit theme as I'm walking through the field or something.
Yes, but you don't walk around listening to just an ongoing song without, headphones or without playing.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that movies have added music and they've that feels normal even though that's not a normal thing. Like you don't usually hear music when things are going on, which is
Well,
interesting to me. I don't
yeah, no, in like thinking about that, like I think that is why it is so popular now for everyone to have earbuds or something to listen to because yeah, some people listen to podcasts or whatever, but a lot of people I think feel like they are trying to have their own theme music for their life. So like
Mm,
it's sort of like when you have like hype up music for like athletes, they just get into because this is like the movie in their head and they're trying to almost like manifest it into their life that, oh,
yeah.
when I walk into a room, everyone thinks da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or whatever they're listening to. And yeah, so I think it's like people trying to like almost like put their life in a movie, which in a way everyone views their life as a movie to some degree.
Yeah. Another honorable mention I have is Ludwig Göransson. Göransson. He most notably did the Black Panther films and the Creed films.
Hmm.
And he also did Oppenheimer. And recently, and I'm going to plug this again so you watch it, he did this soundtrack for Sinners.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but he also did the soundtrack for The Mandalorian and all
Oh,
of
okay.
the Disney Star Wars shows. He's done all of them. He did the music for Obi-Wan, for Boba Fett, for a couple of the newer projects. He is on the up and coming. I think if he's also doing the Odyssey that's coming up,
That's is that Nolan's new film?
Nolan film.
Yeah.
He's done the last 3 Nolan films. He did Tenet, he did Oppenheimer, and then he's going to do the Odyssey.
Okay.
And I think he made a departure from Hans Zimmer because Zimmer is doing the Dune movies and doesn't have time to really
Yeah, that dude is
dedicate.
so busy.
So busy. Yeah, so honorable mention to Ludwig just because he's really only been doing, like, if you look at his films, he's only got like 6. And I couldn't
Hmm.
put him on the list. I personally love his scores so much and would have him on that list. I think if you give him 10 years, I think he's going to be on a lot of people's lists because he's just creating some really cool stuff. And he does a lot of really cool work with instruments from Africa and from other countries that it's not your typical fanfare and march. It's not your typical just piano. He uses a lot of instruments that evoke different kinds of emotion. And I just think he's doing a lot of cool stuff in the studio and it's a different kind of sound and I like it. So
Yeah.
honorable mention.
Okay. I have a couple that I'll save till the end if we have time to throw them out there
Sure.
at the end.
I have one more to add if you would.
Oh yeah, sure.
Elmer Bernstein.
Rings a bell.
Elmer Bernstein did the music for The Magnificent Seven. He also
Oh,
did
sure.
The Sons of Katie Elder.
Hmm.
He's done several vintage westerns and then a lot of other scores of that time period. And it's just,
Okay.
it's my favorite movie, so I got to throw a nod to the composer of the soundtrack of my favorite movie.
You got to do it. Okay, so with that, let's do our top 5 of composers and let's start with 5.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first and then I'll follow up.
So at 5, you mentioned him as an honorable mention, and we said we were going to bring him up. I have Thomas Newman. Thomas
Great.
Newman, to me, you were talking about it. A lot of people consider Shawshank Redemption the greatest movie ever made. And if the greatest movie ever made is Shawshank, then you have to talk about Thomas Newman as one of the greatest composers ever because of that. But then also listen to this run that Thomas Newman went on. In 98, he did Meet Joe Black, which is not everyone's favorite movie, but it's not a bad movie by any sense of the
It's
word.
an underrated Anthony Hopkins, Brad Pitt, Claire something or other,
Yeah.
Forlani or something like that.
Claire Forlani, yes. And then in 1999, he did American Beauty with Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm.
In 1999, he also did The Green Mile with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and Michael Clark Duncan, rest in peace.
In 2000, he did Erin Brockovich, which is not my favorite film. However, I think some of the acting performances in that are really good. I really love Albert Finney, so That's a really good one. Then he, drops off a tiny bit, but then in 2003 he comes back with one of my favorite scores for an animated film, Finding Nemo.
Okay. Yep.
Like, just for me, Finding Nemo, just like the score for that, like it's an animated movie about a fish that goes missing, and that just it sounds like it's just a simple story, but he throws so much emotion into being lost in the water, like the way he takes the soundtrack of that movie and really makes you feel like you are a fish that is lost in the vast emptiness of the ocean.
Hmm.
Which is just, it's crazy to do that. It's an animated movie, but you just
Yeah, yeah.
really feel. And then I won't go through his entire filmography, but just flash forward to more recent. He does like 3 of the Daniel Craig Bond movies, and most
Yeah, yeah.
notably Skyfall, which is one of
Yep.
my favorite scores.
So when again, he was an honorable mention for me, but just everything you listed exactly that, Road to Perdition, that kind of stuff. But what I liked about him was, and again, this is just the film nerd in me. He did the, and this is like, I love reading about how actors and musicians and whatever, how they get their start. And he did the music for The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And he did the score for The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. Sorry. So-
That's
sorry,
such a
sorry,
good
Dan.
movie. He's the Act Man.
Yeah, man. And he was a composer for Real Genius with Val Kilmer. But this was just funny to me. He did the soundtrack for Revenge of the Nerds.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
just funny because, like, when you're composing, like anything else, you're just like, I want to do what John Williams is doing, and I want to create these things. They're like, yeah, well, that's all fine and good, but this is what we have available for you. So he's like, well, it's a paycheck.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So that's my number 5. Who do you have for a number 5?
My number 4 is Ennio Morricone.
Ooh,
There,
yes.
for those that don't know, it's been a little while, but we're talking. Well, I think he's still kicking. Actually, he's really old, but he's most well known for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I
He
mean, that's
passed away in 2020 at 91.
okay. Yeah, because I know he had done like 5 or 6 Tarantino films.
Yeah, his last film I believe was The Hateful Eight.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Um, but what was interesting about him, he did. I just jotted a couple notes down. He did The Untouchables, Cinema Paradiso, The Mission with De Niro, and he did 8 Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns. So
So good.
I have him in my top 5 because obviously The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is considered maybe the best western of all time. It's arguable, of course, but he put his own. It's sort of like, I know we're going to reference John Williams a lot. We get it. But like Ennio sort of like he created his own sound. As soon as you hear it, you know it's him. And like we're talking about, it's so difficult to in a way have a distinct voice with music that someone can hear, a thing from Jaws or a thing from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and you're just like, boom, that's him. And so that's why I have him on mine. I thought you can't leave him out somewhere because of his, like, he has made such a mark on the industry from basically the mid 60s until 2000. So that's like
Oh yeah.
five plus decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe even for his work, I think if I'm not mistaken, Hateful Eight got nominated for an Oscar, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty not I'm trying to think where I was going with that. Oh yeah, no. So it's just cool that like he in his 80s he was still like pushing out some of the most top quality music in film.
Well,
Like he,
and what's crazy also is that, and I do love this, not in every industry, but I do love the fact that a lot of these composers, like they're just working until the end of days. They're just, except for that when I talked about the guy Michael Kamen, who he scored the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. Like he actually contracted MS and he died of a heart attack at like
oh
55.
yeah,
So that was the guy I was saying who, like, he might have gone on to do amazing things. He could have been composing for another 25 years, but
yeah.
anyway, so there's a few like that on the list that died a little too soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you my number 4 and then we'll go to you, okay?
Sure, sure.
So my number 4 is James Horner.
That's my number 4. Hey, let's go. Speaking of composers who died too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I have my notes here. He died in a plane crash. I
soundtrack.
didn't. I don't. I when I was doing the research, I read it, but I can't remember. How old was he? Do you remember?
I just looked at it. I want to say he was in his 50s or 60s. Like he
Okay.
was not
Yeah.
like super. Let me see here. He was not super old.
No, because he had a run of like some amazing
Yeah, he was
films.
61.
He was 61. Okay.
Yeah.
So for the audience, he was the mastermind and composing wise behind Aliens, the fantasy film Willow back in the 80s, Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner.
Braveheart.
Well, I was going to get to that one, but
Okay.
yeah, Braveheart. Yeah. Yeah, Braveheart, just amazing sound. The war film Glory, the space sci-fi film Deep Impact with Duvall and Tia Leone and what I think is actually one of the best soundtracks. It's not on my top five, but it's one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a long time. Is Mel Gibson's Apocalypto.
I knew you were gonna bring that up. I was like, he's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna
of
let
course.
that go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna skip the fact that he had the musical score for Avatar because I think that's way overrated.
Avatar. But that's okay. He actually composed one of the soundtracks that I have on my list for later, so I'm gonna leave that out. So we'll
Okay.
bring that
Yep.
up later. But you didn't mention it, so I'm excited. But he also did
Oh.
the soundtrack for one of the best animated movies of all time, Five Goes West.
Oh, he did that? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did
Yeah.
that, and you know, the prequel to that, which is An American Tale, and both of those are some of the greatest animated movies I think ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're
No,
not.
I agree. Yeah.
They're very good, and he did the music for Jumanji, which
Oh,
is pretty
Robin
cool.
Williams.
Bicentennial Man, another Robin Williams movie, and he did the movie for the music for and Star Trek
That's the
Search
best
for
of the group.
Spock. Yeah. And so I just, on this list, in my opinion, so far, I think James Horner covers so many different genres.
Yeah,
He's
that's
not
why I kind of
just,
picked out the ones I picked out because it's like sci-fi and war and like it's just
yeah,
yeah.
it's not just, you look at Morricone or Morricone, however you pronounce his
Yeah, I'm
name.
not sure. Yeah.
He is predominantly your Western
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Mhm.
And John Williams, though he does do a bunch of different stuff, he's predominantly your American symphony, your big orchestral
Yep.
vibe. And so there's like a genre of that. But James Horner, he did have a style. Like you can tell a James Horner piece from other pieces, but it's very interesting how many different kinds of sci-fi and war and fantasy and this and that and the other, that all kinds of movies. And he's so good. Rest in peace. We could have gotten, who knows, 20 more years out of that. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
man.
Okay, so what is your number three then?
So my number 3.
Now it's getting really tough, by the way. This is where it's like you can't go wrong with any of these guys, obviously, but
Yeah. So my number 3 is a name that a lot of people will not know and will not remember. And
okay.
I had to put it in my list because this individual was nominated for 24 Oscars. His name is Max Steiner.
Max Steiner.
Max
Okay.
Steiner, I'll throw 3 or so movies at you, but he is the genius behind the John Wayne classic The Searchers.
Hmm.
He also did Casablanca,
Mm-hmm.
and he did Gone with the Wind.
Oh, okay.
And there's hundreds and hundreds of movies that he scored back in that timeline of old Hollywood. And I think Gone with the Wind and Casablanca being widely considered two of the greatest movies ever made, you have to throw them on a list of top 5. If not just for that, but also for the Oscar nominations. Now, I think now Oscars are way more competitive than they ever were back in the day. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's a lot more quality over quantity and a lot of creators doing way like, this is nuts. We haven't, because technology is better now. So I think there is a little bit of a slant, but 24 Oscar nominations is crazy. And he scored 2 of my favorite movies, and then I think also 2 movies that everyone considers to be elite. And The Searchers is a very underrated John Wayne movie. I don't think people give The Searchers enough credit, and I'm sure that will come up in a Western pod that we do. But
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
so Max Steiner is my third.
Okay. So my number three, and again, you can't go wrong with any of these guys, but my number three would be, and now it's starting to get like you said, because it has some of your favorite movies. It starts to like you have to play favorites a little bit for reasons that aren't like just talent. But my number three is Hans Zimmer.
That's my number three.
Yes.
Let's go.
Wait, I thought your three was the.
Sorry, that's my. Oh, sorry, that's my number two. Let's go.
Okay, so we'll just talk about okay.
Yeah, so we'll just go right into it.
So okay, I think Zimmer in a way is sort of the heir apparent to John Williams, which I'm gonna guess we both know where he's gonna land on the list, but we'll see. But because Hans Zimmer, what I really love about him is that he can take in so different genres, and he also he uses so many different types of music from different places in the world. And so I'll mention a few of these for the audience, like the Sherlock Holmes movies, and then Blade Runner 2049, and then Interstellar, and then Dark Knight, like so many different, he just like completely goes to a different thing. I think one of the best scores that's been written for war films was Black Hawk Down, and then he did like way back in the day, he did Rain Man, and
you throw in two of the greatest animated movies. He did The Lion King and
Yep,
he did The Prince of Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just did the new Top Gun movie, so I just feel like he has like the pulse on genres in a way that almost no other composer has. And like, he just, he did the new Dune movies. It's one of my favorites is which a lot of people hadn't seen for I can't remember the reason why, but there's a war film called The Thin Red Line, and he did that, and this was back in the I would say mid to late 90s. But it's just when it comes to a guy who can just jump around in genres so effortlessly, it's what do you got?
Man,
on Zimmer?
He's my number two because, I think he is the heir apparent to John Williams. He also, and there's a lot of composers. You look at throughout film history, there's a lot of directors that put themselves synonymous with a composer. And I feel like a lot of people, when you think John Williams, you think Steven Spielberg, you think George Lucas. When you think Hans Zimmer, you think Christopher Nolan. Yeah. And I think there are other composers that fits with. Obviously, you said Ennio Morricone, you have Sergio Leone. But I think Hans Zimmer is he does all these collaborations with Christopher Nolan, and they're all so different. Just like Christopher Nolan's movies, and we talk about that with directors, but his movies are all so different. And I just love that he can work with the same director for like 10 straight years and come up with a new banger every time. Like, it's not like, oh, we've heard this before. This is every single time you're like, oh, let's see what he's going to cook up. It can't be that good. And then you're like, oh my God, what is this? What is in my ears? Right. This is crazy. Like, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's one thing to create, like we talked about at the onset, like to create a film score that is like the first 2-3 minutes, you have the intro and it's beautiful and the rest of the film is scored fine and whatever. And then there are like the directors that the composers that they can create a sound that like you'll hear years later and associate it with that movie. Instead of you putting on a movie and then you're like, oh, that's right, this was a good film score. But like there's like Hans Zimmer's like the reverse. Like you can play like that the intro, or not, well, it's not quite the intro, but the famous music from Interstellar.
Yes.
And then the big, with the big, not cathedral kind of like organ sound, and it's just like you hear that and you're like, oh, that's from this movie, not like the reverse. And I think that's now we're getting to where some of these composers kind of like, you hear the Star Wars theme, and then you like hear the music and you're like, that's this. So
perfect example of that is that Hans Zimmer right now is on tour. He's on tour with a full-scale band. And he's playing on an electric guitar. He's playing his hits. And he's not in a band. He's a composer, and his hits are the movies. Like
Oh wow.
that's nuts. Like he's playing he's selling out all over the world doing concerts of his film scores. Like
Oh wow.
that's cool. And John Williams, with the Boston Pops does something similar.
Right. Right.
John, I think, and we'll talk about him a little bit, but he's done more so composing for things outside of film. So he's also got a lot of work that can just be produced because he's an American composer on top
Right.
of a film composer. Hans Zimmer, I'm sure, has some stuff, but most of Hans Zimmer's work is synonymous with movies.
Yeah.
So that's just really cool that is, like you were saying, that is the thing now where you hear songs and you're like, oh yeah, this is from that movie, and you don't watch the movie and go, oh yeah, this is that song. It's, yeah.
Yeah. It's like yeah, no, exactly. It's just like you hear the music and then it's like the reverse almost,
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your number 2,
My
right?
2, yes. So what is your 2?
My 2, and I'm guessing is I don't know if you skipped it by accident. I'm not going to hold it against you. Howard Shore.
I didn't. He's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The amount of different types of music, like he has a filmography. He did Gangs of New York. He did Silence of the Lambs. He did Philadelphia. He also did the Hobbit trilogy too.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah. So it's not like he just did the Lord of the Rings, but like it's like he'd been doing good like work and whatever. And I wouldn't say everything is like something amazing, but when he got the job to do the Lord of the Rings, like just it was almost like he had to like create different like completely different scores for the movie. So he has like a whole like almost like a full movie of like music for the Shire, and he has the stuff for the Rohirrim, and like for the elves, and then for
yeah, he's taking a map from a book and creating a musical map for a movie, and that is so impressive, and there's no one else that has ever done that. He took a map. You're right. There's like a whole film for the Hobbits. There's like a whole film score and then throughout the movie winds those themes to fit with each other.
The Ents,
Brilliant.
and then the Gondor, and then Saruman, and then the Darklands.
Everyone has their own theme.
Yeah, and then he like did the Hobbit trilogy, which then incorporates all these other ones, and then also he incorporated some of the original stuff from the Hobbit stuff. But I think because of the 6 films and having to do so many different things within each film, that to me had bumped it way up on my list of. It's just we'll see what he does going forward. I actually don't know how old he is, but like. Maybe it's a one-off in terms of like he just had a string of like amazing success with these films, or maybe he has another 25 years of amazing, a composition.
Howard Shore is 78.
He does not have 25.
No, he does not.
My apologies. I'm knocking on all the wood. I hope you have 30 more years. I apologize, Mr. Shore, but thank you for your service.
He did. He has, and I know you're mixed bag on this show, but he has done a lot of work with the new Rings of Power show, and so that's been cool to kind of hear too. Yeah, I love Howard Shore. I had him on the list, and then I took him off, and then I had him on the list. I because of the fact that I think him, and I just think Lord of the Rings. Like, he has a filmography, and I know he's done other things, but I think him, and I just think Lord of the Rings. So, which is
in a way a testament to him, much like Morricone.
Oh, yes.
A lot of his stuff sounds kind of similar, but like
testament
to his own thing.
Testament to his greatness and the greatness of those films.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. What's your number 1?
I don't think anybody's ever heard of him before, and we've never mentioned him 5 times before on this same podcast.
He's a small time guy.
He's this little old guy, kind of looks like just a regular old grandpa.
He kind of looks like the architect in The Matrix, actually.
Yeah. No surprise. My number 1 is the ever amazing John Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
Just the reason he's number 1, off the top of my head, I can name probably 10 film scores he's done without pulling up IMDb.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, what I want to talking about him for a second, I want to mention that a lot of people aren't going to know this, but he started out his sort of background before all this the movie stuff is like, and then once he got into movies was pretty amazing. But obviously he was like he was a composer and he was working with people and whatever. And then some of the movies that people don't realize because everyone knows him from like Jaws and the other stuff, but like him working on the musical Carousel
Mm, mm,
and Breakfast at Tiffany's and Charade and it's just a Fiddler on the Roof. Like
yeah.
he started off doing like, and then I think basically what happened is he ran into Spielberg with I think it's the first one he worked with him on was Jaws
Jaws, yes.
in about 74 75, and then
It was either Jaws or Close Encounters, but keep going.
yeah, and so yeah, Close Encounters was a couple years after that, I believe. I believe that was like 78-ish. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they
So
got together
70,
and
77, 75. So yeah.
okay, yeah. So Jaws and then Close Encounters, and then basically there was a marriage like made in heaven for those two. And then, like you just said, you and I both can name 10 to 15 movies that he's done without even looking at anything.
Yeah.
I think okay, how about this? Let me ask you this. What is your favorite? This is a tough one. What is your favorite movie of John Williams? Because I know mine right away.
So I have it on my top 5 list of the film
Okay, well, you don't
scores
have to mention it if you don't
itself,
want to then.
but I'll give you a second one.
Okay.
My second one would be E.T.
Yeah. I
Because
have not watched that in so many, well, really so many decades now that I can't remember the score as well. So,
dun, 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 dun.
oh yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
John Williams, and he does this with almost every movie, where there's like the word I can put on it is wonder.
Yeah.
There's like a magical element of wonder where you're watching something and you're like, I don't know what I'm watching. This is magical. This is wonderful. And that's why he fits so well with, Harry Potter. Why
Well,
he
that's what I was going to
fits.
mention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
yeah, that sense of wonder and like for me as like a writer of sci-fi and fantasy and that like the sense of wonder with music with film is really important with me because sometimes I'll put something on like that like a Harry Potter score. When I did my top 5 films for music, I restricted myself to only doing one John Williams movie
Yes.
because it's yeah, right. So I didn't put Harry Potter on the list, but like when you watch the first movie, dun,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's like you said, it's just this light-hearted, like whimsical, like magical thing.
It
Yeah.
just makes you believe that what you're watching is possible. And it makes you root for something. You're rooting for, and this is to talk John Williams, you also have to talk about not only his film scores, but his little, uh, his little pieces that he's composed for media outside of film. For instance,
Mhm.
he did the march music for the Olympics on NBC, and he's also done the march music for football Sunday night.
Like that.
No, the dun 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 dun
Oh,
dun dun
oh, I didn't know that.
dun dun
Okay.
dun 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 dun. Yeah, and then you're like there's when you hear the Olympics and when you hear like the football night, you're like, "Oh, I got to root for something." Like it gives you
Hmm.
like the sense of wonder is still there because it's John Williams, but it also he builds in this like I'm rooting for whatever's on screen kind of feel too.
Hmm.
Like I don't know what that is, but no other composer does that like he does. There's something so like you just feel it in your chest, you feel it in your head. Like
Hmm.
this is like you're so connected to what you're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also uses certain musical elements that tend to literally resonate within your chest. So
Mm-hmm.
Howard Shores does this a bit too, but like, and it isn't necessarily easy to do, but like when you put like certain horns together in harmony, there's a resonation that happens that it doesn't happen with like a flute necessarily or whatever. But like, so sometimes when he puts those horns in at just the right time, it makes you go like just brings
Yeah.
something out of you.
Yeah.
As a listener, I wanted to say that it's not in my top 5 of film scores. Just we're talking the films, but this I guess it would be an honorable mention in a way. But I think maybe one of the best scores that Williams ever did was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
It just
Yes.
dun, 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 dun. It's just so great, and like it's not on my top five, and I'll explain why it isn't when we get to that. It just to this day I just watched we just watched Raiders of the Lost Ark with your brother, your younger brother Levi,
Yeah.
and just as soon as the music comes on, his arms are like, he's like, oh, he's just like,
It's like pretty prepared for greatness. Like, yeah.
yeah.
They did as another, like you listen to, we talked about this in the last podcast, that you listen to Superman and you're hearing John Williams, like they're synonymous.
Yes.
You watch Indiana Jones going forward, like I'm sure they will try to remake it at some point. They will do whatever, but like they'll keep that theme. They have to, like that.
They have to.
That it's synonymous. Like Jaws, they made 5 Jaws movies, 6 Jaws, something like that. They all suck. They all suck. But
Jaws 2 was all right. Like,
okay. But other than that, they all suck. But they keep that music. Like there's something to that. You create another.
Wait. You're saying Jaws 4 with Mario Van Peebles wasn't any good? I mean, I think you're totally wrong on this.
Didn't they do a Jaws 3D too?
They did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe another podcast where we rank the Jaws movies.
We'll do a Jaws pod. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, up second to the original Jaws is Jaws, the villain from James Bond. He's way better than all of the other Jaws movies.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
What is your number 5?
Did you want to do any honorable mentions, or did you want to?
Oh, for composers?
For like scores.
Man, this is like trying to read like a treasure map. It's just like,
oh my goodness, that's a lot of notes.
So all of a sudden I'm like, yes, I would like to mention someone, but
if I could find them. Well, let me give you a couple. Let me give you a couple while you look through your crypt notes over there. So I've honorable mentions. And this, I promise, I will keep bringing it up until you watch it, so then you can debate me as to whether or not you like it or not. But honorable mentions to Sinners, because the soundtrack is so good. It takes like a Southern Gothic, like soul, like it just jazz, like it takes like a fusion of so many things that makes up that area of the world and that time that this movie takes place. And just, it's another Ludwig movie. I mentioned that before, but so good. Sinners is great. Finding Nemo, I mentioned that before. I don't have to go into detail on that. I also have 2 that we didn't talk about. Forrest Gump, the soundtrack for that, I really like.
It's somewhere on my crazy piece of paper that is written down. But I don't know where it is.
There's just like, the movie starts and there's just the music. It's beautiful. And it's just like a floating feather. And that's the beginning of the movie. And any movie where I'm watching a floating feather and I'm already engaged, probably doing a pretty good job with the music. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then my fiance Kirsten suggested, because I had seen this movie and it's been a while, but she suggested an honorable mention. It's on her top list, but would be the soundtrack for Amélie.
Oh, no, that's a fantastic... That's a fantastic soundtrack, actually. What is the name of the lady that can't remember? She's so cute and watchable, and actually not just the music, which is fantastic. That's actually a really, really good film.
Yes, Audrey Tautou,
or however she wants. Yes. She can pronounce whatever she wants. But
correct.
So I'm going to throw out a couple of honorable mentions. And
that composer, by the way, for Amélie is Jan Tiersen.
Jan Tiersen. Yeah, no, I have the soundtrack on my computer.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he has a great. It's a short section, but a really great piano bit that pops up throughout the movie. But it's not long. It's like 2-ish minutes or 2.5 minutes. But it's go back to that word whimsical. It's like
yes.
I'm gonna throw a couple movies out there that It's tough because I don't know if they're going to be in your top 5. So it's like, first one, honorable mention is Chariots of Fire.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
And what's interesting about that the composer, he's a Greek guy named Vangelis, or however he wants to pronounce it in Greek. I don't know. But he also did Blade Runner. So he's done several movies with Ridley Scott. He did 1492 Conquest of Paradise. That's another Ridley Scott one from like the 92 or 93 or something like that. So I wanted to give that a shout out because it's like his filmography actually isn't particularly long, but he
that movie is interesting because we're talking about how music resonates with you with a movie and how it becomes that he did the thing where he has become synonymous with people in
yes,
slow motion.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's people going, and whenever someone's on a beach, doesn't matter if they've ever seen the movie. Most people haven't, but
right, yeah,
everyone
yeah,
knows dun dun. That's beautiful. He did the job.
yeah. Another one that I want to give a shout out to was the John Barry score for Dances with Wolves.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
he's a very a competent composer. Obviously, that one was I'm sure nominated for score or whatever. He also did out of Africa, and he did Midnight Cowboy, and he scored 12 James Bond films.
That's a lot of
So
James Bond.
so he has a big resume.
Shout
It's
out
just
that guy.
what's that?
Shout out that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that I love the soundtrack for Dance with Wolves, and
Yeah.
it's
Okay. Heck yeah.
do you have any more honorable mentions?
No, that was my list. I mean, I've got I put the whole Lord of the Rings franchise on there, and I put Star Wars on there because I couldn't pick an individual movie for any of those for my best of. They would all be a best of because they're all so
Well, that's
good.
the thing. There's just so many
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
So shout out to those. But yeah, no, that's all I got.
I have a couple more honorable mentions.
Sure.
Honorable mention for the soundtrack to Legends of the Fall. That's by James Horner.
It's another James Horner, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people didn't see it because it wasn't an indie film necessarily, but it kind of was indie-ish. So it was like there was war in it, but it wasn't a war film. It's a period piece, and it's out west, but it's not a western. So it didn't quite hit a genre, so they couldn't market it really the way they would want to market it. But it had a great cast with Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt and Aidan Quinn, and yeah. But so anyway, what was interesting I found about it, and I love the soundtrack. I have it. He uses a lot of flute to create the movement so he uses a mix of, there's a Native American flute that he uses, and he uses a Japanese flute, and just for anyone who hasn't seen it, give that movie a watch because it's an excellent film and it's a beautiful soundtrack that I think people would appreciate, but they probably haven't seen the film.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
We got a recommendation for the watchers out there out of this because
Yeah.
I would imagine a lot of these films are films that most people have seen, but
Those
that
big
one
ones,
is,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to keep a couple of honorable mentions for the end in case you don't have them in your list.
Okay.
Great.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Sounds good.
So what is your fifth?
My number 5 is a recent film. I saw it.
You're not going to say Sinners again, are you?
No, that was an honorable mention. I told
that's
you
right.
that. No, it's not. I'll badger you with it until you watch it, and then you're gonna hate it because I told you it was so good. Most recent, I watched this film 8 times in theaters, 9 times. I don't know how many times I watched it, but I loved it.
You're not going to say Oppenheimer, are you?
I am going to say Oppenheimer. Yes, Oppenheimer to me, and that's a Ludwig Göransson. Why? Why are you laughing?
Because I have fallen asleep to Oppenheimer like 3 or 4 times now, and I can't get through it. It's just so boring.
I hear you. That movie, I watched that, and I think the acting is good, but the music makes the acting great. They're if you're
was that Hans Zimmer also?
No, that's Ludwig Göransson.
Oh, okay, I couldn't remember because I fell asleep before the credits.
Yeah, Ludwig, and I gave him an honorable mention earlier. He has a piece in this film called "Can You Hear the Music?" And Kenneth Branagh, his character, says to "Can you hear the music?" And there's this montage of Cillian Murphy's character Oppenheimer figuring science and figuring life out through all this imagery that's just flashing by you and there's this beautiful, it's one of my favorite pieces in movie history, beautiful strings section that da 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 da, like they just layer all these strings that just build and build and build until you feel the weight of this bomb that's going to be created at the end of the movie. And it's just I saw this in IMAX for the first time, so with that sound system, like it really made an impression on me. And then at the end of the film, there's a monologue that Robert Downey Jr. got nominated for. And I am a firm believer, not that he is a bad actor or that he didn't act well in that movie. I'm a firm believer if you take the score out of that section, he doesn't get an Oscar nomination because the combination of his acting and the dun 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 dun, dun there's such a poignant music. There's so much trying to think of the words, but there's such a point to the music behind what he's saying, and it carries the beat of how he's delivering his material. And they lined it up so well that I think without it, he doesn't get nominated for an Oscar. And I think without the score, the movie doesn't get as many Oscar nominations as it got. Like it's just such a good score. It takes him, and you said you fell asleep through it, and I get that because it's by itself, it is a boring film. By itself, it is a snooze fest. And if you're not excited by it, you're not going to watch it. But if you add the score, it's a masterpiece, in my opinion. And I loved it. I watched it as many times and as many formats as I could watch it because I think for me, so good.
One of the problems was I didn't have access to see it on the big screen. And so
some
movies
on your laptop, that's a terrible movie.
Yeah. No, there are just certain movies that like you really need to give it a shot at the big screen if you can, because it does make a difference with especially those big movies with the big sound and the music.
Yes.
And it's like the film for me, Interstellar. Like seeing it on the big screen was just like, you and I might have even seen that. I can't even remember,
I think we did.
Yeah, but just to hear that gigantic pipe organ, and it's like otherwise it's like here's just a little like ship floating, but in the theater it's like dun, 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 dun,
yeah. Yeah. What is your
Well, my 5, we actually already talked about it, so we don't talk about it much, but it is actually The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's just, to me, not so much with the composer, although that's important with what he, his whole, he created his own genre in a way, but like it's like when you hear the music, you know what movie they're talking about. So it's like, and then throughout the whole thing, like even at the end where, spoiler alert, even though it was like 1960 something, but like when they're going between the 3 guys and the music is just like building and building and building, and they're in this sort of like weird little kind of plateau, kind of, a terrace garden. I don't know what the heck it was. Going to graves and
graveyard.
Anyway, but it was like, but the music just kept going and going and going, and it's just like the guy who wrote that was living that film in his head. And and some composers do it, and some composers just create great music, but you could tell that he was just
for that movie, for that kind of music, that there's a lot of cinematography and not a lot of words. There's a lot of still voices. There's a lot of quietness. There's a lot of still shots. There's a lot of wide shots. There's a lot of exposition that without that music, I think that's another case. Although it's very well acted, although the story is compelling, I think it's another case of you take that movie out or that music out and the movie is boring. The movie I'm not saying it's bad. Same with Oppenheimer. I don't think it's a bad film, but I would fall asleep. If you put that movie on as it is now, I still sometimes fall asleep just because it's the right pace of slow. But if you don't have that music, I think I fall asleep 9 out of 10 times because of how that movie is set up, the pacing, the delivery. There's like a whole, like in most Sergio Leone film, there's like a whole 5-minute shot where there's just a tumbleweed, like just blowing. There's like a door just and you're like, all right, get to the action. When's somebody going to shoot somebody? Like what? Like, and without those soundtracks, I think so. That's just how amazing that soundtrack is. I completely agree. Yeah.
What is your number 4?
All right, so number 4, we talked about it a bunch, so I don't have to really go over it too much. But before I have Interstellar, we don't need to. It's such an iconic score, and I think the only thing I'll say about it is I think that score is what catapulted Hans Zimmer into the pop culture limelight. Like he had done
Yeah,
stuff before and he was good, but that movie cemented him as a GOAT.
yeah. I would. That actually had I had that as my one of my honorable mentions to mention at the end, in case you didn't have it in your top
Lovely.
five.
Lovely.
Yeah. Okay, so then I'll go to my four. Maybe you have it. I don't know. Braveheart.
I do not have it. Okay.
That is,
Yeah.
and it. I think for me, it holds a special place. Not. I mean, it's often considered like one of the top scores or whatever. But it was I saw it in the theater when I was in college, and it was just like I remember people were so worked up at one point, like people would stand up and go, yeah, like in the theater
Yeah.
while the action is happening because I think obviously it was well directed and cast really perfectly, but the music just kept pushing, whether it was the bagpipes, during funerals, or it was, the action sequences where, they're like two sides are like building up and building up and the music is building up and building up and then they rush at each other and crash into each other. But to me, that's a James Horner film,
Mm-hmm.
who also did, Aliens and Legends of the Fall. And, he's really good about evoking emotion,
Yeah.
in his soundtracks.
Yeah, for sure. Love that. Love that pick.
Yeah. What is your number three?
I'm surprised that neither of us mentioned him at all. And so this score that he did, I'm happy I get to bring it up. But I have Arrival. You and I, what'd you think
I
I
thought you
said?
meant A space.
No. Arrival.
I'm like, is there a movie in the
No.
your top three I've never heard of?
I have Arrival, which is composed by the late Johann Johansson.
Yeah.
And he passed away at
What's that?
48. He was 48.
Yeah. He died of suicide.
So sad. But he did The Theory of Everything. He did Sicario. But Arrival, first off, it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. Second off, that movie it's not most alien movies are thrillers or they're action movies, and that is very much a still movie, a quiet movie. It's a pondering, like, what if kind of movie.
Yeah. I would say it's arguably a top 10 sci-fi film. We'll do that at some point, but
Yeah.
I'll have to make lists and stuff. But like
100%.
that's
It's so good. And not only is the composition good, but they decided to put in, there's a monologue in the movie at the end by one of the main characters, Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. Yeah, at the end where she talks. Yeah, I remember that.
And the music that they use is Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, which it's been used in a bunch of different films and movies. It first was used big time at the end of Shutter Island, but it's just this beautiful, haunting, string-heavy piece that's it's so emotional. Anytime I hear it, I pause, and I'm just like, and that monologue on top of that piece, it's a beautiful monologue because it's looking back at her life and talking about things she would have done differently and this and her interactions with the aliens and like how that has changed her perspective, and it's just a beautiful monologue, and it's on top of this beautiful music that both separately would be beautiful pieces of art, and then you put them together and it's just masterful. And how that movie wasn't nominated for every award under the sun, I don't know. It's still a crime to me, but Arrival is my three.
Yeah, if you ever want to hear a beautiful, like, heart-wrenching song or composition, I don't know how you call it, by Johann Johansson, it's called I believe it's like Sun Gone Dim.
Okay.
And it's like it's very, very quiet and slow, and there's like use some like electronic voices to start the song. And it's like it's very difficult to describe, but when you listen to it, if you're not moved emotionally, you don't have emotions in your body. It's just, and it's not long, it's like a 3.5-minute song or something, but definitely worth anyone to find that on YouTube or wherever you get your music from and check that out. Okay, so that was your number three, right?
Yes.
Okay, my number three is Gladiator.
Okay.
I think it's one of Hans Zimmer's best like best scores. He partnered up with I can't remember her name, the lady who does a lot of the vocal work in that film. I wish I would have looked that up, but sorry. When we were talking about people touring, like they actually will tour and do the Gladiator music, but it's like the ladies are doing the music. It's like incredible. Like
Lisa Gerard.
yeah, who I believe her. It's like there's three sisters that are actually like all musicians and they do different things without getting down to the rabbit hole of that. But no, I really that's another one of those movies where I find that when you hear the music for the movie, like you remembering what film it's from,
Yeah.
and it's just I don't know, something about it has just always like really resonated with me with that particular soundtrack. And you know I didn't do a deep psychological dive on why that is, but um yeah, yeah, I think it's a remarkable soundtrack.
Awesome. Awesome. I
Mhm,
agree. I like it a lot. Did
mhm.
you, on the subject of Gladiator, did you get to see the second one yet?
No, I haven't seen it
Okay.
yet. No.
It's highly enjoyable. I'll have to send you a link to it.
Okay.
But yeah. Yeah. Okay. That was your 2 or your 3?
That was my
3.
3.
Okay, cool.
Now we're down to 2.
Yeah.
You're up on your 2.
My 2, and maybe you have it at either 2 or 1, but I have Schindler's List.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably because I've seen the movie once or twice, and that was more than enough
Well,
because
I've
it's
only seen it
very,
once. I will
yeah,
probably
it's
give it a
sad,
second viewing, but yes.
obviously, but
Again, John Williams.
hmm
I think it is John Williams' best work, in my opinion. That's why earlier I said I'd give my second favorite.
yeah,
I think the music for that movie, like the subject matter is already sad and the movie would already be sad and compelling, but that music makes you feel something beyond what you would already feel.
there's a
It
lot of
just takes
violin and
it
yeah,
takes a knife and it turns the knife and it makes you physically feel ill and depraved and depressed and like all of the feelings of that film.
yeah.
And it's simple, like it's not a very complex soundtrack. It's a very baseline. This violin is very heavy, and it's more toned back than a lot of John Williams pieces. Like I was talking about before, he highlights a lot of like American orchestrals. He's got a lot of fanfare and march in a lot of his films, and this is
hmm
a lot more. I have a quartet, and I'm gonna play this quartet or conduct this quartet to
It's
just
it 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 feels like it's sort of like an intimate soundtrack.
very intimate, very
Yeah,
intimate. And it's just so emotionally wrecking. And I think it's one of the greatest soundtracks ever. I don't really need to explain it any more than that. It's
yeah.
brilliant.
No, I because I went with the rule that I could only go with like one composer for each of the top 5. So there were other John Williams ones I could have put on there,
Mm.
but I
Mm.
chose for my number 2 Star Wars
Sure. Sure.
because as obviously everyone knows Star Wars, blah blah blah. But like it's not necessarily that it's his best score or even the best score on the list for any of these guys, but it's number 2 because it just has taken over the world with its like people's awareness of it
Mm.
and its attachment to a thing.
Mm.
And I think for that reason, like yeah, there's the music for Jaws, right, and the music for like the Harry Potter, right, but like when it comes to like Star Wars, and again, I don't think it's his best work, but I think it's maybe the most iconic of all of his work, and that to me puts it at the top of his giant, amazing list of stuff. So
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
get it. I get it. That
okay,
makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. I love Star Wars. It was in my honorable mentions because there were so many Star Wars movies to choose from.
Well, yeah, well that's why I mean when I say Star
I
Wars,
know
I
you
mean A
mean the
New Hope.
original, A New
Yeah,
Hope.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So okay, we're down to number 1. So I think you got to go, and I have no idea what yours is going to be.
No. My number 1, I went with a personal pick, not a film that everyone will know or that everyone will care about. It's an indie film, and it did get nominated for a bunch of Oscars. It's a more recent film. The film score for a movie called Minari. It is composed by Emile Mosseri, and he's only done like 3 or 4 films, and they're all indie films. They're all good. This movie flew under a lot of people's radars because obviously, believe it was A24, but it was a smaller budget film. The main actor is Stephen Yeun. He played Glenn in The Walking Dead.
Mhm.
And it was about a Korean family that moves to the middle of the United States to start a farm. And it's just their life in white farm country figuring out the American dream. And it's just, I don't know, I just really enjoyed the film, but the music also, it's just very for like that subject, it seems very, it's not exciting to everyone. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. There's a bunch of subtitles. Some of it's in Korean, some of it's in English. There's some character actors that people will know, but the music is so, it takes that movie from a good movie to an amazing movie. I
Hmm.
watched it and I was just overcome with emotion, and I put it on several of my soundtracks. The main theme, believe the title of the piece is called Jacob's theme, because the man's son is named Jacob, and he's got a theme that goes through the whole film. And I think that specific piece has gone viral on TikTok because people have used it as an audio to portray beautiful things that they have caught on camera.
Mhm.
And so, because that piece, and I'll send it to you later so you can listen to it and just get some feedback, but it's got such a tone of just beauty in the stillness. We were talking about John Williams evoking the sense of wonder, and this piece uh, just brings out not necessarily like wonder on a smaller, like a more interior scale than a grand scale, and it's like a breath of fresh air, and he's got a style of composing that's different than your traditional film, and I just really enjoy it. So I figured I would give something unique and interesting as a number one instead of something that was broad, because I wanted to shed some light on a film that I love.
No, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I suppose if I wanted to like do something like that, yeah, I would have to like think back because over the many, many decades of watching, especially like with the little indie films with maybe a composer that like never got a chance to do big budget stuff, those are some fun ones for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, however, for my number one, went with a big, but we actually already talked about it. I went with Lord of the Rings for my number one because basically, like we were talking about, like having like basically writing completely different scores. Because a lot of times it's a score that there's thematic and it's like kind of redone a little bit throughout the whole film, and that's fine. But like
Yes.
for a guy to take essentially a map of one of the most iconic, series of books like ever written, and then writing completely different scores for all these different places, a dozen different places or whatever the number is, and to make them so unique, but also for the lovers of the Tolkien books to be able to listen to those and then go, yes, that's appropriate for the Gondorians and for Rivendell and for with this and that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and for Gandalf to have his own, and each of the characters themselves have their own theme too. So he had like themes for every character, and then he had scores for the different like
Mm-hmm.
regions on the map, and it was just like to me, one I love it obviously, and I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and we can do a whole thing on, and I'm sure we will about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that fun stuff, and I have a connection to it just because like I studied at the Tolkien archives in college and all these different things. So for when I remember when the movie came out, get to see it like the opening night, we're all there in the parking lot just waiting to go in, and but there was a sense of trepidation because all of us were just like, please don't mess it up, please don't mess it up, please don't mess it up, because we didn't know. We saw trailers and it looked amazing, but like, and the music sounded amazing in the trailers too, but you don't know until you sit down, and then you
Yeah.
sit down and then the music comes in, and as soon as like there's a little bit of a preamble sort of a thing, and then the music for Hobbiton and the Shire comes in, and you're just like, I'm about to go on an adventure. This is going
Yeah.
to be so amazing,
Yeah.
and it is a big budget and all the different stuff. But like we were saying before, it came from a guy that he was just sort of a humble composer who had successes, but like to entrust
That
someone
was
from
his
that
magnum
background.
opus.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, again, he doesn't have to do anything after this because
No.
he put all of his, it's sort of like when you think about like a lot of musicians, you listen to their first two, three albums maybe, and then they start like they don't have any more songs in them. It's like maybe he had, all this and he just put it into one project, and maybe that's going to be it.
Like those pitchers in the World Series, they're like 39. They used to
Yeah.
be a Cy Young, and they have one good game left, and they give you
Hmm.
all 9 innings of hell.
No, it's
Yeah.
like it's sort that reminds me of we'll talk about this a later date, the baseball film For Love of the Game.
Yes. Yeah.
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 We could do just a Kevin Costner pod
That'd
because
be cool. There's a lot to go on there.
he's a legend of just
Legend. Yeah.
yeah. So that's my number one,
Love it.
and I do because I don't think there are two movies that I don't think we brought up at all.
Oh, what you got?
I'm gonna bring up the score for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, yes, Hans Zimmer.
It's Hans Zimmer again. It's so for a lot of people, it's full of fun and whimsy. Again, that's that word that we like. But like, it's again, it's like it's for Hans Zimmer. Of course, you got to expect him to be able to do that, But so I want to throw that one out there. And then this guy almost made my top 5 for composer, Trevor Jones.
Okay.
This was an honorable mention for best film scores was Last of the Mohicans. I mean, we've described like music and film in every way possible already today, but like it evokes something out of you especially with the pacing of the music. Like he was really good about like starting off and just like building it. Whereas a lot of times it's like you just get the music. It's fast to start with or it's slow to start with, but he builds these movements especially in that film. And I think that's a fantastic soundtrack.
Kirsten also gave me 2 that, I will use an honorable mention. They are in her top. She has Murray Gold, who scored all of the Doctor Who show, and then also Henry Mancini.
Yeah.
Who
he's a legend.
A lot of people would know from the creator of the Pink Panther theme, which and that's just classic. They've done a bunch, but yeah. So those are 2 others that I'd throw in there. But
yeah, for sure.
This was awesome.
Yeah. This is great. Again, people like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put a link. And when I say we, I'm using the royal we, meaning Noah's going to put a link. We're going to put a link in the bottom for other podcasts for you to check out. That way, if you're digging it, you can just be like, okay, let me see what they're talking about with this kind of genre, these films. So definitely check that out. So we'll try and leave some links with each of our pods. All right. So thanks everybody for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the Great Movies podcast, and we will see you guys later.